Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going over when to file Form 1099 miscellaneous. This form can be confusing. There's a lot of things reported on this form. So I'll be taking you through a Form 1099 miscellaneous walkthrough, going over every box on the form, geared specifically for my small business owners so that you know when you need to file this form and what to report on it. This includes payments for your business rent, also my property managers, royalties, prizes and awards, inventory purchases, certain healthcare costs. Plus, I'll cover the basics of e-filing requirements, due dates, penalties, and answering all of the common questions. When it comes to how to e-file this form, I have a special tutorial video, which you can check out here. In that video, I show you how to e-file your 1099s with the IRS and your state if applicable, using the easiest and fastest method I've found, which is with a software called ZenWorks Tax 1099. But first, if you're new here, my name's Amanda. You're watching the Business Finance Coach, where I simplify accounting and taxes. And I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, ZenWorks Tax 1099. That's the software that I use in my other video to show you how to e-file these forms. And I've been using this software for over 10 years to e-file 1099s and other payroll forms. It's been my favorite software to use, and I teach people how to use it in my courses and programs, and of course here on YouTube. So I'm really happy to have them sponsor today's video. If you want to support my channel, I have a special link and discount code you can use to e-file these forms at Tax 1099. Check out the description box and the pinned comment down below for links. Let's jump in and get started. Can I fill out Form 1099 miscellaneous online? So yes, not only can you, but it is pretty much required for most small businesses. The requirement in 2025 is if you have more than 10 informational forms, which includes 1099 NEC, 1099 miscellaneous, W-2s, and more. And honestly, it's just way easier to e-file than to paper file. Paper filing requires carbon copy special paper. You also have to include a Form 1096 to summarize your 1099s. You do not need to do Form 1096 when you e-file. The deadline for filing 1099s is January 31st of the year following the year that you're reporting. So for 2025, this will be January 31st. And because that falls on a weekend, that due date is moved to the next business day, which is Monday, February 2nd. What payment amounts and what types of payments are required to file the form? So we're going to talk about the specific boxes and types of payments in more detail in a moment. But in general, if you've paid more than $600 of any of the details that we'll talk about, that triggers you having to file the form. For 2026, this threshold amount is increased to $2,000. But there is an exception, which is that if you used a credit card or you paid through a payment processor like PayPal, then they'll be required to file a Form 1099-K, and therefore you do not need to file them a 1099. Now, the penalties for not filing Form 1099 or filing it late, you can see listed here. And of course, those penalties go up if you have intentional disregard, meaning you're just choosing not to file. Plus, if you don't file, all of the amounts that you paid that you didn't report can be removed as a tax write-off from your tax return, which is probably going to be the biggest penalty, especially because that can also include interest and additional late filing penalties. But let's jump in and talk about what's reported on this form so that you don't make any mistakes and you're not late. So here in box 1, we have business rent. So if your business is paying a landlord for rent throughout the year more than $600, then you'll file Form 1099 miscellaneous with the amount of your total rent for the year in box 1. However, if you pay a property manager, you do not have to file this form because the property manager will file this form. And for my property managers, yes, you need to file this form for all the rent you collected on behalf of your clients. And it would be the full amount you collected, not the net of expenses that you paid them. This also includes other types of rent, like if you're renting machinery and specifically pasture rentals. With something like a machinery contract, you may need to allocate rent between rent for the property used and the payment to the entity for work that they're doing. So you might need to file a 1099 NEC and a 1099 miscellaneous for one job or contract. Also, keep in mind that the amount you paid includes barters or exchanges. The fair market value of what you received is the amount you would report as having paid. In box 2, we have royalties. Now, royalties are probably less common for my smaller businesses to be paying. It might be more likely that you receive royalties, but royalties are payments to a property owner for the use of that property. They are most common in natural resources like gas, minerals, and oil, as well as intellectual property like copyrights, patents, and also authors for book sales. If you have specific questions on royalties, do comment them down below. So for box 3, other income, we have a bunch of things that can be reported here. But for smaller businesses, the only one that's really going to be very relevant is if you pay prizes and awards. So I sometimes see this, especially in the online space, as a marketing promotion that you might give away prizes. If you do, and the amount or fair market value of the prize is over $600, then you should report it on 1099 miscellaneous to the person you gave the prize or awards to, and the amount in box 3, other income. However, you should not report anything here that was for services. So if someone is your employee, you cannot be giving them prizes and awards. Those amounts will just be included in their pay on their W-2. Also note that this isn't for gambling. If the receiver actually paid something like lottery tickets or gambling where there's a wager involved, that's gambling, and that will show up on a W-2G. So next we have box 5 and 11, and these are two very specific situations for the fishing industry. If you have questions, I'll do a separate video on that. Otherwise, you can also check out the link to the instructions for 1099 miscellaneous that go into more details. Now, box 6, I just want to clarify, this will not apply to most small business owners. It's health and medical payments, but this is not where you report insurance that you pay. And in general, most smaller businesses aren't making these payments. It's often going to be insurance companies that are reporting payments they made to various doctors and healthcare providers, hospitals, etc. However, if you did make payments like this because it's in the course of your business, then you will need to report them on this form. As a small business owner, you aren't deducting healthcare and medical payments. Instead, you'll pay for health insurance, and that is reported on your W-2, box 12, code DD. And that is an informational reporting requirement. So our last big one for small business owners is box 7, where you check the box for direct sales. So if you purchase products more than $5,000 during the year from one person or company, and you are reselling those products not in a permanent retail establishment, then you would fill out this form. Now, you do have an option to fill out form 1099 NEC instead. And you can see the option is in box 2. This is saying you're purchasing inventory and you're reselling it basically on your own. Now, these last ones are not going to be as applicable. In box 8, we have a filing requirement specifically for brokers. In box 9, we have a filing requirement related to farming for insurance companies. In box 10, we have a filing requirement for payments made to lawyers, but this is predominantly going to be for insurance companies. Note that if you pay a lawyer for services, you would report that amount on form 1099 NEC. Box 12 and 15 are for deferred payment compensation plans. If you have one of these in your business, you should really be hiring people that are taking care of these filing requirements for you, as a lot of that area gets very complicated. In our last boxes, we have state information, and you can list up to 2 states. And usually that's based on where the payments were made. This state information is only informational, and the IRS will use it if the state participates in the combined federal and state filing program, which just means that you'll report the information here, you'll e-file it with the IRS, and the IRS will e-file it with your state. I have a resource from Tax 1099 where you can look at your state specific requirements to see if they participate in that program, or if they have some other filing requirement that you'll need to do separately. Tax 1099, the software I'm going to show you next, does offer that for states that have separate filing requirements. That is all. Thank you so much for watching this video about when to file Form 1099 miscellaneous. If you have any questions, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below this video. I'm happy to elaborate on certain topics or more specific industries, so let me know if you have questions. If you need more help with your accounting and taxes, be sure to check out my programs and courses. We use unique spreadsheet templates to help you get organized and have one-on-one meetings to answer all your questions and guide you step by step. Check out my other videos to learn more. And if you're new here, do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.